Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakah Kadash, double honors to the apostles and elders, great most on the roll wall, and Shalom to the brothers to the work concerning truth. Um, got this article in The Guardian. It's interesting because there's basically been, well, I don't know if it's immediately, actually, no, I think it is already through, where it's basically been like a change in how the EXT ism, how it's been defined in the UK legally, where it's basically now just far broader, and they've essentially changed. I'm not well. It doesn't clarify exactly. I read a bit of it. How I'm not sure if it's. I believe it's the law being changed. I think it's the definition in the legislation being changed to kind of broaden it. Because I read this, so it's on thingy. It says ministers and officials to be banned from contact with groups labeled EXT ism. And it said the new definition to be published by Michael Gove is already being challenged. So he's basically changed it, and they switched up the the law as well. So it says ministers and civil servants will be banned from talking to or funding organizations that undermine the UK system of liberal parliamentary democracy under a new definition of EXT ism, criticized by the government's T Watchdog and community groups. So it says what Michael Gove, the community secretary, will tell MPs on Thursday that officials should consider whether a group maintains public confidence in government before working with it. So I think this is I don't know if it's something specific, but I think it's what do you call it? Probably around what's going on, in between Palestine and State Israel. That's I guess what has brought up, but when you go into it, you can see this is something that can easily be applied to like brothers that teach over here, because they made it so it's broad as all hell, which that's what a lot of these forms of legislation are, and they made it broad as all hell, and they made it so it's something that you can't like there's like you get railroaded. It's like what's it called in the US, man? The Patriot Act. Yes, it's exactly like the Patriot Act, because you essentially forfeit a bunch of rights when when they basically take you in on this. So it's groups that will be effectively cancelled by ministers falling foul of a new definition will be named in the coming weeks. So it says there will be no appeals process if a group is labelled as EXT. It is understood, and groups will instead be expected to challenge a ministerial decision in the courts. So you can't even like appeal, you have to go to court, which is wild. It says a new definition which will be distributed across the government, and Whitehall will say EXTism is a promotion of environment or advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred, or intolerance that aims to 1. Negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others, or 2. Undermine, overturn, or replace the UK system of liberal parliamentary democracy and democratic rights, or 3. Intentionally create a permissive environment for others to achieve the results in 1 or 2. So it said the previous guidelines published in 2011 said individuals or groups are only defined as such if they show vocal or active opposition to British fundamental values, including democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, and the mutual respect and tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. Gove, who's overseen, so would it say vocal or active opposition? So Gover's overseen formulation of new definition said it would ensure that government does not inadvertently provide a platform to those setting out to subvert democracy and deny others people's fundamental rights. But deep concern was expressed by Jonathan Hall KC. The government's independent review of state threat legislation referred to a lack of safeguards and a labeling of people by ministerial decree. So yeah, so it's something where you like they can just place that on you, and because you have to go to court to even like you can basically just be yeah, it's peak. They can basically just piece that together and put on you, and like if you can't go to court, then it's like you're through. So it says what the definition focuses on ideas, on ideology, not action. So it's a move from the previous definition, and that's the thing, yeah. So it's like, well, he says it. So it says to idea is an important one because I think people will be entitled to say what business is it of the government, what people think, unless they do something with that. He told the Guardian. So yeah, it's funny because it's like thought policing, which is well, that's essentially the level it's gone to, because it's like if you know if it says if you're thinking something in your head, then you can have that label applied to you. It basically just broadens it supremely, and it's interesting because I think it might go on it might actually be tied to these the what are they called, environmental campaigners, these guys that have been like chaining themselves to things and gluing themselves to the floor and all that shit, and throwing like soup on paintings and shit like that. These guys, I feel like they might get painted with that brush as well. So I said, there's no appeal body, and where you have this lack of safeguards, it's going to be really important to make sure that this labeling does not bleed into other areas. If the government says that someone's an EXT ist and is essentially saying you are unacceptable, then what could stop a local authority or another public body or even a private body from deciding they will adopt it as well? Yeah, because that's the thing is saying like they basically have that definition, but then it's like, what can your bank just say like, no, we're not gonna. You guys can't even bank with us anymore. As your, the guys you rent from, they're gonna be like, well, fuck you guys. Like that's the thing is like if that gets put on you, everyone else is gonna be looking to fuck off from you. Cause why? Cause they're just saying like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, yeah. So it says a new definition is not statutory, and it will be used by government departments and officials alongside a new set of engagement principles. So yeah, it's not being passed in law, but it's still being used, and then it will be, well, yeah, we push forward, man. But then that's the thing is like they said, it's so broad, because there was a thing that was said by, it was what, Greenpeace. So I said extending the definition risks fueling unlawful protest. That's the thing is, it's like the broader it gets, because essentially it's broadened to, you know, if you believe something, then we're gonna essentially label you this, which seems, well, other than the only thing it seems like legally it'll do is if members of government can't interact with, with those people. But then obviously that'll apply to things in reality. And then as well, the government interactions just makes you think about the micro C hit, when these, systems become essentially key, then what they're how essentially it's going to be a way of kind of, it says you can't interact with ministers and officials talking or funding organizers, so you essentially be, the government can't even fuck with you. So it's kind of, this could be something laying groundwork to kind of deal with, what brothers are teaching, because it's like I said, it's broad as hell, and they can arbitrarily decide, and unless you go to court, like that's on you, and you can't do shit. Which is just kind of wild. Man said there's no appeal process. Like they just say like, yeah, you've been brandished this, now deal with it. Which, and it's funny because they say it's to protect democracy, but it's what restricting more freedoms. So it's like, yo, saying like, yo, we have the capability to kind of label you, brandish you something, label you something, and there ain't shit you can do unless you can go to court. And how many people are gonna be able to be like, okay, let me just go to court and defend this? But yeah, nice peak. I read this Amos 8 and 11. It says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Most High Power, that will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Jehovah." And yeah, that famine of the word, that's, these, he said it's not legislation, but something that's going to be used, and then, how you basically be restricted from fucking with the, civil servants and the government. But then what? It's something that can be broadened, because like you said, it's like what, is so if the government and civil servants aren't fucking with you, then it's like the council on down be like, oh well, they've we're not gonna fuck with him either, or they're gonna be like, nah, we'll still fuck with him. Then the banks be like, yo, okay, well, I guess we're still nah. But that's the thing, is these are things where it's pushing these things where, essentially brothers ain't gonna be able to be around, because they'll, try and label brothers, even though we all we're doing is teaching the word, man. We're spreading that good news. But that's something that's averse to this kingdom. So as such, Esau's gonna try and label us with these labels. Because what does it say? And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north even to the east, and they shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord Yahweh, and shall not find it. And yeah, there'll be that point in time where it's something that can't be found, man. You're gonna be going out and about, you ain't gonna see it. At the, currently, especially through the unicorn, through the internet, it can be found, but it's gonna hit that point where it's not gonna be found. And then as well, Revelation 2 and 10, it says, "Fear none of those things." "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. And you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life." Yeah. So this is what? "Fear none of those things that thou shalt suffer. Some of you be cast into prison." And yeah, these are things. It's essentially, it's going to hit that point where, be grabbed up, be thrown in jail. Brothers might have to scatter, go into the wilderness and depart. Because why? Because the name we come in, man, Yahweh Shai, teaching under that name, that was the key focal point, the key focus that had the apostles getting getting stripes, getting thrown in jail, getting put to death. Because why? They said, they said don't teach in that name, but they did. So judgments were, well, I say judgments, not even just they'll dealt with harshly, which is the same thing now. Now when time of acts come again, and it's gonna be bookended by the final judgment, man. At time of Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation, and then what? The end of this current rulership. But what? That's gonna result in hardships to those men that are teaching. as it said, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give thee a crown of life. So it's about enduring through, man, and holding fast. Because why? That's, these things. We're aware, man. We're aware of what they mean. And it's funny because with a lot of these, essentially with they did this back in like in the States, like I said, in 2001, where they had the Patriot Act, which is meant to be temporary. And then what it do? It essentially allowed anyone to have their rights suspended, essentially. Fucking hell. But yeah, yeah, like I said, it's no marvel, man. We know what time it is. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom, shalom. Yeah, Bashim Shah, Bashim Kakadash, Shalom.